All right, well, it's time for Media Watch, and James Creedon is here with us in the studio. Good to see you, James.
Hi, Laura.
And you're starting with one of the stories I just mentioned, a warning for President-elect Donald Trump in the United States from the French leader, François Hollande. You cannot backtrack, you cannot get out of the commitments to fighting climate change that President Obama signed last year.
That's right. So he seemed to have a very consistent message today, no matter who he was speaking to. He said it on Twitter as well a little bit before he spoke actually to France 24 a little earlier. And the word he repeated is irreversible. This Paris Agreement is irreversible, irréversible en droit, irreversible in law and in conscience. That's what he said on Twitter a little bit before he used the same language in an interview given to our own network and picked up here by AP. French President François Hollande calls the Paris deal irreversible. Now that's echoing kind of the spirit of what Ban Ki-moon has said also. He's saying the climate deal is unstoppable. That's the word that's being picked up in headlines. Even Beijing, which is being seen as a country that would be very difficult to bring into the fold of the Paris Agreement, Beijing also warned Donald Trump against defying the world by killing the climate deal. You have US officials, obviously still representing the Obama administration, but US officials in Marrakesh have also been saying that these climate change efforts will continue despite Donald Trump's views. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Bernie Sanders very vocal on this as well, saying millions of people are going to have to say, Mr. Trump, you are dead wrong. Climate change is not a hoax. So he's been tweeting about this issue quite a lot on social media. And what we can expect, certainly, as this article points out, is in the US, a lot of internal pressure. Environmental advocates will be ready to fight Trump in the courts, in Congress, in the streets. You have state governors, such as Governor Jerry Brown of California, saying that we will stick to those climate change targets and commitments despite Donald Trump. So the individual states won't back down on this. So really, you can see that he's up against a huge amount of pressure within the US and also, of course, around the world on this.
Right, because Donald Trump's own position is climate change is a hoax, global warming isn't really happening, and he said that it's a conspiracy that's coming from China in order to gain advantage in world trade. I mean, these are his ideas. He's been very open about that during the campaign trail. And a recent appointment, Myron Ebell at the EBA, that has cast even more concern for a lot of people.
That's right, because there's the simple fact, you have all of these voices that have been saying, it's unstoppable, it's irreversible, etc. But the people he's appointing to lead his policy initiatives clearly don't share this point of view. And this gentleman is a clear example of that. The New York Times points out a number of things. For example, the lobby that he heads up has a lot of links with the coal industry. So essentially, he has in the past made it very clear that he's a climate change denier in many respects. He even went so far as to say, as Esquire magazine points out, in a 2006 op-ed, that global climate change could be a good thing. He urged readers to think about the benefits of climate change, less severe winter storms and warmer weather, which would mean more beach time. I mean, this seems very disconnected from climate change research, right? And just as
it's not the consensus among most scientists.
No, and as a symbol of just how really how he is seen as being on the opposite side of progress and scientific research on this, he was named as one of 7 climate criminals during the Paris Climate Summit last year. He was seen as one of 7 people who would be in Paris lobbying against ambitious reforms, and a number of organisations actually singled him out as one of 7 what they determined as climate criminals. There were even wanted posters going up around Paris this time last year.
And he's now in the Donald Trump inner circle.
That's right. So the 2 forces will now be meeting, the kind of points of view that he represents and the points of view that I was evoking earlier about climate change policy being irreversible. Will there be a conversation? Will there be compromise?
We'll have to wait and see. Showdown, isn't it? Very much Absolutely. So. Meanwhile, people are still talking about Facebook's role in the whole US election last week. Yes. A lot of people say that the platform basically enabled people to share a lot of false news, false information, and that they believe that might have had an impact on the election.
That's right. There's a whole conversation going on around this, and it seems to be happening inside Facebook as much as anywhere else. There's a degree of disagreement about it. Facebook staff within the company are making a secret push, although not so secret if the Guardian is talking about it or elsewhere, to tackle fake news. Now, why is that? Just to give you a quote from various sources coming from within Facebook, fake news ran wild on our platform during the entire campaign season, said one employee. Now, this goes against essentially elements of what Zuckerberg has been saying. Well, first of all, it appears that this was something they did intend to tackle at some previous point, but it appears that it was shelved because they realized that in targeting quote-unquote fake news, they were going to be targeting mostly conservative websites, and it would disproportionately impact on right-wing news sites.
Yeah.
So they're realizing that they could lose a whole load of their customers who are perceiving that they're actually getting involved in potential censorship. You can see this one tweet here. Facebook is openly attacking what they call fake news. Sounds more like censorship of true news. So this is the fine line that they're trying to balance, it's a tough one to get fully right. Now, what they have done is they've targeted advertising. They've added a condition to their advertising network that it can include no fake information. Already it bans pornographic content, which is already seen as controversial at times.
That's going to be hugely difficult to police, though, isn't it?
But that's it. It's also how do they filter out fake news? That they're not actually. It's not a journalism newsroom. So how are they in a position to verify if news is fake or real?
Bit of a dilemma for them. All right, James, we'll have to leave it there. But thank you very much indeed, James Creighton there.